You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Let's talk a little bit about this New Mexico team. Outside looking in, looks like defense is really good. Offense has struggled a little bit. Let's start with the defense. What have they been so successful at doing so far?
I mean, really, it is forcing turnovers. They had 7 turnovers against UTEP last week. One of the names for your listeners to watch for is going to be Jarek Reed. He's a defensive back. Really, he's one of the best cover corners that the Mountain West has. This whole team is predicated on defense. You have Danny Gonzalez, the head coach, defensive-minded head coach. He was at Arizona State working this long with Rocky Long, who's one of the best defensive minds in college football. So you put that together. It's been a couple years in progress, but you're starting to see some of the dividends now with how these guys play defense. They play a 3-3-5, so a lot is based on what these guys do in the secondary. You have DBs that come up and attack the run game. Everybody swarms to the ball, and they just create turnovers like nobody's business.
Sam, I'm glad you mentioned Rocky Long because I had to look it up today. He's 72 years old. Obviously, he's a Hall of Fame caliber coach. I mean, everybody I think knows that name was associated with college football. Is the drive clearly still there? I mean, is it a little surprising even still that he's doing what he's doing right now with that defense?
No, I think this is actually a dream scenario for him. He's a defensive coordinator. Last couple of weeks, he's actually been coaching up in the box to try to get a different view on things, and the program's really done a really good job of just kind of respecting him staying out of the spotlight. It's Danny Gonzalez's team. He's there to, he's there to put his input in. Obviously, he's one of the best defensive minds around, but he really just stays quiet, stays away from the media, and just does his thing. And really, that was kind of one of the selling points from Coach Gonzalez on bringing him here. It was, let's get the band back together and just let you focus on the defense and not have to worry about any of the other stuff that comes with coaching.
Sam, what did Boise do so well offensively to put up 31 points and attack New Mexico?
There really honestly wasn't anything spectacular that Boise State did. I mean, certainly they wore down this defense with their run game. There was a lot of frustration in that game, just the way the Lobos couldn't move the ball. So the defense was on the field a lot. They were getting tired. And by the fourth quarter of that game, those guys were just gassed. And Boise State was breaking tackles, breaking off some long runs. But there really wasn't anything spectacular or outstanding that Boise State did. They just buried the Lobos over time, unfortunately, and UNM's offense didn't have enough to keep up.
Sam Hauser's with us from ESPN Albuquerque. So that's a great transition. Let's talk a little bit about that offense. Where has the struggle come primarily?
I don't know if I would necessarily call it a struggle. I mean, you have different guys in different spots. Nate Jones was a stud running back for this team in 2020. Had some off-the-field situations that kept him away from the team last year. He's working his way back up. I guess one of the things that Boise State's defense did is they took away everything that UNM likes to do. These guys really like to use the entire field, go outside the numbers, use the run to set up the pass, and Boise State took a lot of that away. So if a team has a strong front seven and they're going to disrupt what UNM wants to do in the run game early, yeah, that's going to make things a little bit more complicated. But the whole thing is just a work in progress, and I got to tell you, it's so much better than even last year. Like I do think this has a chance to be at least an interesting game because of where this offense is at.
Sam, any offensive players to keep an eye on from New Mexico?
Certainly Miles Kendrick, the quarterback, the transfer from the University of Kansas. He's got a good arm when he's called upon to use it. He's a dual threat quarterback. The thing that's so interesting about this offense is they have so many different running backs to go to that are, I'm sure, at some point will all get utilized. If it is Nate Jones, Christian Washington, Sherrod White, Luke Weissong's a really popular player around here. He's a local kid from Rio Rancho, from Cleveland High School here in Rio Rancho, which is just up the road from Albuquerque. So there's a lot of weapons on this team. One thing I'm going to be curious about is the Lobos really haven't used their tight ends at all, which was a big part of this offense last year. So see if that gets going, but there's just so many different guys that they can give the ball to.
Special teams have played a big part in two of LSU's 3 games so far. Actually, there have been big plays in all 3. I did notice that New Mexico had a kickoff return for a touchdown in that game against Boise State that we mentioned. How are the Lobos in the third phase?
It's up and down. I mean, the return game does have some electricity to it. You mentioned Christian Washington had that return for a touchdown, got him a Mountain West Weekly Award. Luke Wysong is a really good returner as well. I just mentioned him. He can do just about everything. And then the Lobos have a couple of kickers, depending on the situation. They really have a long yardage field goal kicker, and then one that they go to if it's a shorter situation. George Steinkamp is the long yardage kicker. He's the kickoff man. Really strong leg, had some trouble with accuracy this year, but really that's where that's one of the areas the Lobos can turn a game on its head with one of these long returns. A couple of guys that can do that as well.
Sam, I'm also curious. The transfer portal is just such a gigantic part of college football. I mean, we all know that right now what it is. With Kendrick coming in from Kansas, are there other Power 5 transfers that have come into UNM sort of as a way that they've helped build and supplement the roster?
Well, yeah, like you said, Miles Kendrick is the big one coming in from Kansas. Also, one of the other top ones, we didn't see him do much last week against UTEP, but one of the other ones is Jordan Porter. Came in from Arizona State. He's a wide receiver who really had a good connection with Miles Kendrick the first couple weeks of the year. But beyond that, really what this coaching staff has done is just completely utilize the junior college ranks. Basically, the entire offensive line came from junior college, a couple of these running backs as well. So it's been more kind of dipping into the junior college ranks as far as transfers go. But Miles Kendrick and Jordan Porter, the wide receiver, are probably the two of the more notable ones on this year's team.
Sam Hauser from 101.7, the team there in Albuquerque, ESPN Radio in Albuquerque. Last thing, if there is a blueprint, if Danny Gonzalez is going to pull a big upset as a 5-score underdog, his squad, what does that blueprint have to look like Saturday in Tiger Stadium?
It's going to be getting the run game off to a really good start, just mixing up the run game in a zone read. The thing that people might see a lot, that the Lobos run a triple option or an option kind of offense. It really is a much more modern RPO than I think they get credit for. So if they can get the run game off to a good start and then use that to set up the pass, get that LSU secondary up, and then let Miles Kendrick use some of his arm talent, the way that he can throw on the run as well. He's really good at extending plays and being able to find guys deep. So it's just going to be using the run to set up the occasional big pass play. And it's going to be, if that can happen, then buckle up. I mean, I'm not predicting anything right now. Let's make that perfectly clear. I'm not predicting a UNM upset, but that's what it would be using that run game and all these different running backs to set up a couple big pass plays.
LSU and New Mexico for the first time in football, 6:30 on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. Sam Hauser from ESPN Radio there in Albuquerque. Sam, thank you so much for the time, man. Appreciate your flexibility very, very much. Enjoy the game Saturday, man.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.